All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I want to first start with saying that I hope everyone is well and safe at home and having a wonderful evening. Just a couple of things I want folks to be mindful of as we are in California, battling lots of fires. Many of us are in different locations. And for me, as I am in a location where we're having rolling blackouts. So if you are having any type of issues with visibility or connectivity, try refreshing. And we're going to do our best to stay on screen amidst everything that's going on. Just want to start with that. As Matt introduced, there are some wonderful things that are going to be happening today. This is a much needed discussion, and we are going to be joined by two fabulous graduate students who are going to do the moderating for this lovely event. I will not be talking as much. And Roop and Julie are going to do a fantastic job. I'm really excited to have them moderating because they'll be able to talk about their experiences and speak to a very important topic. We are going to be talking about graduate school. We have 4 different areas of discussion, not just graduate school, but graduate students. We're going to be talking about professional development with Dr. Sabharwai and Dr. Fan. Establishing yourself in the field will be with Dr. Rodriguez and Dr. O'Reilly. We'll also look at just the idea and the process of colleague empowerment with Dr. Sayers and Dr. Narayan. And then lastly, in our 4th panel, we're going to be doing a reflection on what it's like to be a mid-career psychologist. And without further ado, Roop, and you're going to be moderating. So I'm going to hand it over to you to begin this discussion.
All right. Thank you so much for the wonderful kickstart, Dr. Ball. I'm really happy to be here. But I firstly wanted to thank all our viewers here. I know all of you are busy with school and work, so I'm really, really grateful for each one of you. But I am more thankful for Dr. Fan and also Dr. Sabharwai. I'm going to give a brief introduction about them, but feel free to read their bios. Okay, they have done amazing work, and I'm not doing justice by speaking a sentence about them. So first we have Dr. Fan, who is a counselor faculty at San Jose State University for the Counseling and the Psychological Services. Zer also serves on the AAPA Board of Directors. And next, we have Dr. Preet Sabharwai, who has been providing services at the Hume Center under the South Asian Community Health Promotion Services for the last 7 years. She has been recognized by AAPA for her outstanding contributions and also received an AAPA Early Career Award. So thankful for Dr. Fan and Dr. Sabharwai to be here. And I'm really excited for our viewers to know how your personal experiences developed you so professionally in this field.
Just noticing there might be a little bit of background noise. So, but I want to echo that and say we're excited to ask you guys some questions. So, Roop, what do you have for us today?
Yeah, so I'm going to jump right into our first question for the sake of the time. I'm wondering if both of you ponder on your journey of getting your doctorate, what was most challenging for each of you?
And how about we start with Dr. Sabharwai on the first question?
Yeah, I was like, one of us I just want to start off by saying thank you very much for inviting us to be a part of this panel. As a graduate student, not too long ago, but I feel like there weren't many platforms and spaces for us to have these conversations. And that's kind of why I created the South Asian Mental Health Consortium, as well as to provide graduate student spaces like these. So as I ponder about my graduate school experience, I think the most difficult part for me was at my school specifically was that there weren't that many professors of color. So when I decided to do a dissertation topic that was about the South Asian community, I really found it really difficult and a lot of pushback from professors. When I would turn in drafts, there would be like, why isn't there enough research mentioned here? You don't have enough peer-reviewed articles mentioned in your reference section. And then they were wanting me to define certain terms, and it was just becoming just pages and pages of just definitions, and it was taking away from actually what I was trying to put out there. And so just feeling really disconnected and not feeling like I was being supported, because this was what I wanted out of my graduate experience, but there just wasn't enough professors of color to provide that support to me. So I think that was the biggest challenge for me.
I think I'm going to add to that a little bit. I think my training, my graduate school being in the Bay Area, there were faculty of color, but I think for myself, wrestling with, I'm going to add in the intersectional piece, identifying as queer and Asian, and feeling that, well, what does this mean? Because I feel like we have so many instances of, okay, being Asian, being queer, and then how do I meld those two? What is professional? Who am I? And then feeling this pressure to be almost a copy, like what came before me, but then not feeling like it was true to who I was, but then not knowing where to go. And so I think just a lot of like echoing the same sentiments of like, what do I want out of this experience? Who am I? And a little bit, who am I allowed to be, which is really scary.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Fan and Dr. Sabharwai, for saying that. What I was hearing from Dr. Sabharwai was, you wanted more representation of people similar to you. And I think that echoes with Dr. Fan as well. You were really trying to navigate your different identities throughout school, throughout your career as well. Yeah. And speaking of it, how did you both navigate your personal and professional life? Being a graduate student, or even, right now, where is the balance for you?
Maybe I'll just say not well. Yeah. I'm going to be really upfront and say that. I feel like I'm going to keep saying this word over and over again, intersectionality. I think I don't actually know what like family and like, work separation looks like. I think the word enmeshed gets thrown around a lot for our cultures. And I'm like, I dislike that word because I want to be involved in my family. But then realizing that mental health is not well known. And so sometimes I turn into a therapist and at home as well, after I've done 40 hours a week at work. And so I don't know. I think this is one of the hardest questions, and being like a new faculty and like, who do I say no to? I think is one of the hardest answers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think similarly, it's when I was reading the question and trying to think, okay, how would I answer this? It was really hard because it's like, do I be honest or do I say what people expect to say? Yeah, I have a perfect balance between family and work. And so I think it's become even more difficult now that we're working from home. So I have a small child, and just remembering that, I've gone through a lot of life milestones through my graduate school. I got married, I bought a home, I had a child. And so it's been really difficult. And my graduate journey wasn't, 5 years and I was done. And I went into, did my dissertation and I graduated. It was a little bit longer, and just being mindful and being kind to myself, practicing a lot of self-compassion, that's okay. That's my journey. And I'm okay with that. That's kind of been my savior, is just practicing self-compassion and just letting myself know that it's okay that it took a little bit longer. But I truly I do strive to kind of find a balance between the two, because especially I think my South Asian identity comes out, because then I feel like I want to help everybody as well, because I'm the eldest in my family. So I'm a caretaker. And I often hear from my family, like, stop being a psychologist around us, like stop doing therapy with us. And I'm not meaning to, but and I work in prevention. So sometimes I want to have these conversations from a preventative mindset, and not realizing that maybe this is not the space and time to have those conversations. So it definitely has been a difficult journey.
I just want to point out that this is a topic that is really resonating with some of the viewers, and there were comments coming in about this. And I think it also relates to the previous question around, challenges and not having the representation of balance in the field. So I really think that your responses and the honesty is so appreciated from our viewers as well as from us.
Yeah. To add to that, I'm so glad that both of you are 100% transparent on this panel and, talking about your family lives as well, which made me also wonder, how do both of you, what suggestions do you have for students who are of the similar identities, be it Asian, South Asian, queer, or belonging from a minority culture?
I guess I can start. I think the most important thing for me was I couldn't find the mentorship at my school, was to get involved outside of school. And try to find that mentorship somewhere else. And not just one mentor, different mentors, because there's different areas, different issues within mental health that I was interested in, and finding those people that I could connect with, that were available to me in other ways. So it wasn't easy because I'm innately introverted and culturally socialized to not ask for help and not show any weakness and not speak up. And so just I had to come out of my comfort zone and really search for those things. And I was really fortunate that I lived in the Bay Area and there were a lot of opportunities. I joined CPA, I went to lobby days at the state, and then I started meeting people like Helen Sue and Michi Fu, and just really seeing women that, they may not have been South Asian, but they were Asian, and I could connect with them, and they really truly understood what I wanted to get out of my career and the interests I had. And so just finding those mentors in other places was really helpful for me. And not just one, just wherever I could find someone, getting their email address, really connecting with them, talking to them, and understanding, what were their experiences. Because, they may have been, 10 years senior to me in terms of their career journey, and just learning from them, like, how did they navigate the system, and how they could support me in getting my goals achieved.
I'm going to say that almost exactly. Also the name, Helen and Michi, a huge shout out. I think, I guess I'm lucky on this side because I'm naturally extroverted. But I think that was also kind of tying in all the different kind of questions we've been asked. Growing up very, very much East Asian, I was always told that my personality was too much. And so I think when I went into the field, it was so hard to put myself out there because I was always waiting for that, oh, you're kind of loud, you're kind of like too much kind of thing. And so when I met Helen, when I met Michi, it was a completely different ball game. And it felt like I'd kind of found my people almost. And the funniest story of how I met Michi, it was at NMCS, and I saw her and I asked her if she needed help. And I was like, this is the most Asian interaction we've ever had. Like, do you need help? Can I help you? And I started cutting paper. And that was how I found my mentor.
That is awesome. I think just something that you just pointed out about the fact that your personality was, what you needed to embrace finding a mentor and finding yourself in the community. And I totally echo that sentiment of being told either you're too vivacious or too loud or too passionate or too this or too that. And it's really important for people to be themselves. And we hear it in grad school, find your voice, be you. But if you have people telling you to be the opposite, that's a challenge. So I'm glad that you really spoke to that point, because there's a lot of graduate students out there who are trying to be their supervisor and not getting a chance to be their true selves.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. I would say, being a graduate student, I am in the same boat. And just hearing both of you say that how well you connected to your mentors really wants me to have a mentor as well. But I'm also wondering, how did both of you start your professional development journey besides school? Like, were both of you involved in something else as well? I can start with Dr. Fan, if that's okay.
Of course. Professional, I really struggled in grad school. It feels a little bit bad to say this. I feel like apologizing again. It's very cultural. But I really struggled in grad school, and it wasn't because there wasn't other Asian female like professors, but it just, something didn't click. And I think it was really my first practicum experience actually when I met Helen, and she pushed me to join AAPA. And it was, tear up a little bit, but AAPA was really my professional and like family. This place where I got to grow into who I was, that I could be my like excited, vivacious self without someone being like, oh, do you want to be a little quieter? Like, which I've gotten a lot. And, but also melding that feeling of like, oh, like I can be all of me. Because I think, like, I kind of want to speak to this piece of like when we're navigating, I don't know, family or like home life. Sometimes I feel like I'm only pieces of who I am. Like I have to tone it down a little bit. Grandma doesn't like it when I'm too loud. Or like, oh, like this topic is not appropriate for this family, like discussion. But it felt like AAPA was a place for me to just be. And sometimes I'm a little bit surprised when I say stuff and it's echoed back to me. And so I'm I don't know, trying to like be a little bit more myself and stop being so scared all the time.
Yeah, I got to AAPA rather later, but I did early on. I really wanted to go to conferences, and so I think my first, even I think it was the summer before I started graduate school. I actually started going to CPA conferences, but again, not feeling very connected because there weren't a lot of people of color that would attend CPA. I would try to submit proposals and they would get rejected without any feedback. And then the feedback sometimes would be, oh, we need more data, we need more references, we need more research, and really feeling frustrated, like there isn't any. That's why I want to propose, present, so that someone can utilize that, and so then CPA, I didn't feel connected, and then AAPA would always follow APA, and so it was always out of state, and just being a graduate student, not being able to afford to travel, and so I would want to go, but I wouldn't be able to go. And then finally saying I had to, make a decision and say, well, I'm not getting what I need, and I know that this organization exists, and so just going there, and so I remember going. It was me and two other practicum students from the same practicum site that I was at, and we went there. It was in Colorado. That was my first one, and it was amazing. It was so, I walked into the room and I looked around and I'm like, wow, I see brown people, I see my Asian brothers and sisters, like everyone is here. I'd never gotten that experience before going to any conferences, and so it was just like literally brought tears to my eyes when I walked into that room. And I got a service award that year. I had, it's like, okay, I got to present, I got an award, and this is the first year I'm attending this conference. It was an amazing experience, and it has been every year since then. And that's kind of, it's just been growth from there on.
Yeah, I'm very glad to hear both of you talk about it. Seemed like AAPA was a second family for both of you, where it was mentoring, professional development, and also people who looked and felt like you as well. Yeah. We just have a few more minutes for this panel, and I had one more question. Just a minute, sorry. Since we were talking about intersecting identities, few graduate students wanted to know, have either of you had experiences in which you were undermined by your clients or supervisors due to having intersecting identities?
I'm sure everyone can jump at that question because as a person of color, there's a lot there.
I'm trying to see how diplomatic I can be in my head.
So for this question, let's start with Dr. Sabharwai.
Yeah, so this is another tough question for me, but definitely I think I struggled with what therapy looks like for my community and just how to actually provide those services. So it wasn't so much with my supervisor at my practicum site. It was more so like my practicum supervisor at my school saying, well, you're not doing therapy. What are they doing over there? Why are they allowing you to do this? And not wanting to understand that the therapy for this community looks different. We're doing prevention work. We're really doing a lot of stigma breaking. We're trying to educate them about what mental health or emotional wellness is. So a lot of, treatment planning and, assessment, all of that doesn't happen until we actually break that stigma and they're willing to come in and have these services. And so really struggling for, my supervisor at the school, professors, to understand that I am doing therapy, but it's from a different lens, and it's not that I'm not providing services and I'm not utilizing what I'm learning in school, and just that barrier of not being able to communicate with them, and how do I help them understand that the community is engaging in services, and this is why, because we're having these conversations.
Oh my God, I just want to reiterate to the viewership that therapy doesn't have to look one way. And if you're a graduate student, that is, I think, really important and isn't underscored enough, especially in our diverse communities. So I really appreciate you saying that. And I know, Dr. Fan, you're going to add a lot to that as well.
That second that so much. I think echoing that, like kind of tying it back to that first question is, I'm also trying to figure out what kind of therapy I want to do, right? Is that I feel like we're taught this one way, and then we go out there and I'm like, CBT for everybody. No, you don't want CBT. Never mind. I don't know what to do anymore. But I think I also want to add another piece of supervision, training. Every single piece sometimes looks a little bit different. Perhaps feeling undermined, but I do remember feeling like I almost had to explain myself everything that I did. Yeah. I remember supervising for the first time on internship, and I don't know if it was because this never happened, but the prac student that I supervised was another South Asian person, and we clicked. For her, she was like, "You're the first Asian psychologist I've ever seen in my life." And it was just like this incredible eye-opening experience. And so, like when I went away for AAPA and I came back, she gave me a hug. And I just remember the clinic director's face looking at me like, "Do you start every supervision?" I was like, "Yes, it's a requirement." Trying not to be sarcastic, but then like he was serious, and I was like, okay, like they were genuinely concerned about boundaries, and I was like. Maybe she was excited to see me. Like it was just such an odd experience of feeling like, are we not allowed to do this? And like it was a wonderful experience because I was able to kind of discuss it with him. But I feel like it could very easily have been like, oh, like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna stop doing that then. Right. I guess I'm just not gonna be myself. I'm gonna stop being warm. I'm gonna be this like kind of like blank. How was your therapy experience? Like kind of, and so. There's so many points that I felt like we could have been diverted, and I could have just been put back into this little box of like, this is how you're supposed to be. Yeah. But oh my God, it takes so much energy to fight that. Yeah. And it's exhausting and it's terrifying because there's nobody supporting you sometimes.
So we survived. We're here.
Yes. Yes. I think just really quickly, if you can touch on finding that power, because there is a huge power differential between supervision and directorships and being an intern or graduate student. So if you can briefly, in about like 30 seconds or less, tell me, what did you do to find that power, find that voice?
I went to my AP family, burst into tears for like 3 days. And then I went back to my internship. I was like, this is not okay. Yeah. I got the tears beforehand.
But yeah, finding those spaces, getting consultation, just starting our own consultation group, and just, not, the fear needs to go away, that this is your learning process, and you take ownership of it. If you learn a different way, make sure that you're advocating for yourself and speak up, find that voice. If not with your supervisor, find other ways.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's a huge takeaway for our viewers as well. Having mentors, having some support, whether it's family or just people who have similar identities, but huge takeaways from your conversation, but unfortunately, we do have to end here. Wish we could talk longer, but thank you so much for being so candid on this panel.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Dr. Ball, any final thoughts that you have?
No, I just appreciate your honesty and how candid you both have been. And I know that this has been such an amazing content for our viewership, and even a great reminder for me of the process I went through. So thank you so much.